Welcome
to the Deep
MHP
Dive.
Rhino Nation to another
Today, we're
episode.
looking at
Let's
some,
get
well,
diving,
honestly,
dive
some
deep
jaw-dropping
into
figures in real
MHP's
estate.
baby.
Yeah, really eye-opening stuff.
Think about this. One person makes over $110,000 on just one deal. Someone else gets a fantastic house for literally $0 down.
Zero down. Incredible.
And then there's a company aiming for a $250,000 in profit in 1 month.
It almost sounds too good to be true, doesn't it?
Yes, it really does. But these aren't just stories. They're real results.
Yeah.
And they kind of challenge everything we think we know about property investing.
Exactly. And today we're exploring how these outcomes are, well, how they're achieved using some really innovative, sometimes unconventional strategies, ways of buying and selling that really redefine the game.
Absolutely. So our deep dive today goes right into that fast-paced, high-stakes world. We're using exclusive insights from live calls and discussions with real estate expert Richard Taylor.
So we get a real behind-the-scenes look at how these deals actually work, the mechanics of it all.
Right. And our mission here is to unpack these methods, show you the maybe surprising facts behind them, and help you understand how it's often ingenuity, not just deep pockets, that's building serious wealth in today's market.
You want to show you how people are using negotiation, creative financing, sharp analysis, basically turning difficult properties into really lucrative opportunities.
Okay, so where should we start? Maybe with that high-octane strategy?
Yeah.
Wholesaling.
Yeah, let's do it. Wholesaling.
So for anyone maybe not super familiar, wholesaling is that classic idea, right? You find a property, get it under contract, hopefully at a good price.
A very good price, ideally.
Right. And then you sell that contract to the final buyer for a fee. The key thing is you never actually own the house yourself.
You're like the middleman, the deal maker.
Exactly. The matchmaker.
And the real genius here is the financial agility. You're not using huge sums of your own money up front. Your capital is really your negotiation skill and your speed.
And you can generate some serious profit that way.
Oh, yeah. Substantial is the word.
Okay, get this. One participant in Richard Taylor's Hold My Hand Who Wholesale program, they secured an assignment fee of somewhere between $110,000 and $120,000 on one deal.
Wow. That's huge for an assignment fee.
And apparently, it could even go up to $170,000 once some other related units get sold.
Incredible.
Richard said it was one of the biggest the program had ever seen, and this person only started back in March.
But, it wasn't just easy money rolling in. This really highlights the high-stakes part you mentioned.
Right, there were problems.
Big ones. There was an inspection issue early on. But even more critical, the seller, described as an older gentleman, actually tried to back out.
Oh, wow. That could kill the whole thing.
Completely. Richard called it a misunderstanding, but yeah, it could have derailed everything.
So what happened?
Well, through, persistent negotiation, they didn't just save the deal. They actually managed to negotiate the purchase price down from $2.1 million to $2 million.
So they turned a potential disaster into an even better deal.
Exactly. So the win wasn't just the massive profit. It was also that resilience, navigating a tough seller situation and actually improving the terms.
It really shows that even with these fast deals, the people side of things, managing expectations, sorting out conflicts, it's absolutely crucial.
It's not just finding the property, it's guiding the whole thing through to the finish line.
And these quick wins, they're not just flukes, are they? We heard about another person, Rowan.
Ah, yes, Rowan's deal.
Made $5,000 profit after making just one phone call.
One call. It sounds unbelievable, but yeah.
And again, there was a hiccup. The buyer tried to back out initially.
Right, but they used the existing lease statements to kind of solidify things and push it through.
And Richard's own team. They're looking to close over $250,000 in deals in just 1 month.
Yeah, and one of his dispositions managers, just one person, had something like $143,000 in closings lined up for that month.
So it's not luck. It's a system, a well-oiled machine.
Absolutely. And what's fascinating for anyone listening, for you maybe looking into this, is just the speed and the scalability when it's done right, even with bumps in the road.
It really shows the power of good negotiation and just, taking action quickly.
Definitely.
Okay, so wholesaling, clearly powerful. But it does take a certain kind of hustle, right? What if you've got a day job? Or maybe you don't have a ton of capital ready?
Yeah, that's a really common situation. What other options are there?
Well, this is where Richard gets into another really creative area. Creative financing. Building a portfolio with little or sometimes no money down.
Okay, so how do you buy properties without needing a big chunk of cash up front or without spending all your time finding deals like in wholesaling, especially in today's market?
So Richard mentioned this challenge, he said. trying to help someone basically retire, achieve financial independence through real estate by March.
Okay. Ambitious.
Yeah. And it was aimed specifically at people who do have jobs,
Hmm.
who don't have endless time for wholesaling. And his solution involves these short-term, like 6-month, hard money loans.
Hard money, right. Known for being faster, but usually more expensive.
Exactly. But here's the twist. These specific loans offer a 100% funding. $0 down from the borrower.
Now that's the game changer. Because standard loans like DSCR loans.
That's debt service coverage ratio.
Yeah, those usually only fund maybe 80% of the value, right? You still need to bring a down payment.
Precisely. DSCR loans look at the property's income, good for rentals, but they are more conservative. This 100% hard money, it's built for speed, for fix and flips.
So you trade higher interest rates for getting all the funding up front, banking on a quick turnaround, and profit.
Exactly. Let's walk through an example to make it really clear for you listening. Imagine you buy a place for, say, $50,000.
Yeah, okay.
And you figure you need another $30,000 for renovations.
Right, so $80,000 total project cost.
Plus, closing costs, loan fees. Maybe you end up owing the hard money lender around $85,000 total when all's said and done.
Makes sense.
But after you do the work, the property's after repair value, the ARV, is maybe $145,000, $150,000.
Okay, big jump in value.
So you sell it, pay back the $85K, and you could walk away with, what, $40,000 to $50,000 net profit, all starting with $0 down.
That's a very powerful way to get started, isn't it? Especially if capital is the main barrier.
Definitely. And it leads to a clear strategy for growth.
Right, not just a one-off flip.
The idea is flip that first property, take the profit and put it aside as your capital reserve.
Crucial for those unexpected costs that always pop up.
Always. Then you use that experience, that reserve, to do more deals. But instead of selling the next ones, you refinance them into long-term rentals.
So you build a portfolio.
Exactly. So take that same property, ARV, $150K. Instead of selling, you refinance. Maybe you can get a long-term loan for, say, $110,000 based on that new value.
Okay.
You use that $110K to pay off the $85K hard money loan.
And you're left with maybe $20,000 cash back in your pocket.
Right. Plus, now you own the property with a long-term mortgage. Maybe the payment is $950 a month, but it rents for $2,000 a month.
So you've got, what, $800, $900 positive cash flow every month. Plus, you pulled cash out.
Exactly. Repeat that maybe 4 times, and you're building real cash flow, real wealth, getting towards that financial independence goal.
That's a really solid blueprint. Flip one for cash, refi the rest for keeps.
And Richard even had this other kind of side hustle idea. He called it name as equity.
Name as equity. What's that?
Basically, he offers his name, meaning his network, his know-how, his ability to get those zero-down loans in exchange for half the profit on a flip. The other person has to find the deal and manage the actual rehab work.
Wow. So he's leveraging his influence, his reputation as his contribution. That's fascinating.
Isn't it? It really shows that capital isn't just about money.
No, absolutely. Your network, your expertise, your ability to unlock financing. That's a form of capital too, especially in this kind of market.
Okay, so that's zero-down flips. What about other ways to get properties creatively? Let's talk about mortgage takeovers using trusts.
Right, sometimes called the next of kin method informally.
Yeah, what's the deal with that?
So this is a bit more sophisticated, legally and strategically. Basically, the seller puts the property into a specific type of trust. Then the buyer purchases the trust itself, not the property directly.
Okay. Why do it that way?
Well, the effect is that the buyer essentially takes over the existing mortgage that's already on the property because the trust owns the property subject to that mortgage. It avoids needing new financing.
So you inherit the existing debt, like a next of kin.
That's the analogy, yeah. You step into the owner's shoes regarding the debt. And this is super attractive if the existing loan has a really low interest rate compared to today's rates.
That sounds amazing for the buyer. But hold on, what about that due on sale clause? Don't most mortgages say the bank can demand full payment if the property changes hands?
That's a really important point and definitely a risk to be aware of. Technically, yes, many mortgages have that clause. Transferring ownership, even into certain types of trusts, could trigger it.
So the bank could call the loan due.
They could. It's not guaranteed. And sophisticated investors understand this risk. Sometimes certain trust structures are less likely to trigger it, or sometimes banks just don't enforce it if payments are being made. But yes, it's a calculated risk.
Okay, so why would a seller even agree to this then, with that potential risk hanging out there?
Usually it's because the seller is highly motivated and their main goal isn't maximizing profit, it's getting out cleanly and quickly. Maybe they have zero equity, or selling costs would mean they have to pay to sell.
Right.
This lets them avoid the hassle of a traditional sale. It gets the debt off their personal balance sheet, which can help their debt-to-income ratio if they need to qualify for something else. The buyer is basically solving a huge problem for them.
Okay, that makes sense. It's about relief for the seller. We got some case studies on this, right?
Yeah, real examples. First, there's one in Aubrey, Texas.
Aubrey, Texas. What was the story?
It was a pretty new house, built in 2023, good area, but it had been stuck on the market for 114 days. Nothing happening.
Ouch. Long time for a new house.
Yeah, the sellers lived there. They had a 4.75% interest rate, which isn't terrible, but maybe not great for the price. Crucially, they had no equity. And if they tried to rent it out, they'd lose $800 a month. They just wanted out.
So what was the offer?
Richard offered to take over all the debts, the mortgage, even loans for solar panels and a water filter. Plus, cover the agent's commission and all the closing costs.
So the sellers.
Walked away completely clean, didn't bring a dime to closing, didn't get any cash, but they were free of the house and the debt. Headache gone.
Wow. That's solving a problem.
Exactly. Seller's liability becomes the buyer's asset. The buyer gets newish home, decent rate, willing to maybe cover that negative cash flow for a bit.
Okay, then there was one in Olympia, Washington.
Right. Described as a stunning property, but the situation was tough. The seller was going through a separation.
Personal circumstances often drive these deals.
Definitely. They were paying a $3,500 monthly mortgage on this house while also paying rent somewhere else. Needed speed. The interest rate was higher, 6.25%, and renting it would mean losing $1,200, $1,300 a month.
Another money drain.
Yep. So Richard offered to take over the debt, plus cover about $8,000 in closing costs and the fees to set up the trust.
And the seller gets?
Debt freedom.
Oh.
Again, no cash in their pocket, but critically, they didn't have to write a check for thousands just to sell the place. They could just move on.
The common thread is definitely seller motivation, isn't it? Solving their pain point.
Absolutely. Financial strain, life changes, a property that's just bleeding money. The buyer comes in with a solution focused on relief, often by absorbing that debt.
But the Indianapolis one, that sounded like the real prize.
Yeah, the portfolio gem. This was different. A beautiful primary home, perfect condition, but just not selling. Why? High interest rates spooking buyers.
Right, making affordability tough even for great houses.
The mortgage was $3,700 a month, and again, it would lose money as a rental. But here's the kicker.
The interest rate.
Bingo. The sellers had bought it maybe 3.5 years prior. Their interest rate was between 3 and 3.5%.
Wow. That's like finding gold today.
Exactly. So Richard's offer here was different. He offered $20,000 cash to the seller.
Okay, so they got cash and relief.
Yep. Plus $10,000 to their agent, covered all the closing costs, and took over that amazing low-interest debt via the trust transfer.
That deal sounds incredible because of that rate.
Totally. Richard apparently planned to keep that one in his personal portfolio long-term. Why wouldn't you, with that kind of financing locked in?
It's just fascinating how these strategies let investors get around the usual market hurdles, turning what looks like a problem for the seller into a major asset for the buyer.
Especially that Indianapolis one. That low rate fundamentally changes the whole equation, making it an exceptional long-term hold.
So we've heard about these amazing wins, these really clever strategies. It paints a picture of, high rewards.
Innovation and profit.
But it can't all be smooth sailing, right?
Yeah.
In high-stakes real estate, not every debt pays off. Sometimes the smartest thing is knowing when to fold them.
Absolutely crucial. We need to talk about diligence, being adaptable, and knowing when to just walk away.
Because behind those big success stories?
Oh, yeah. There are countless hours vetting deals, negotiating, analyzing, and sometimes making that really tough call to say, nope, not this one. It's just as much about managing risk as grabbing opportunities.
Okay, so let's talk about a deal that didn't happen, the Money Pit duplex in Cleveland.
Yes. Good example of diligence in action. A student, Chris, found this duplex listed for $50,000. Seemed cheap.
50 grand for a duplex?
Yeah.
Sounds tempting.
Right. But Richard, wisely, paid $100 for an inspector, a guy named Bob, just to do a quick walkthrough, not even a full formal inspection yet.
Just get eyes on it.
Exactly. And Bob's feedback was, well, brutal.
Oh.
Total money pit. Needed a massive rehab. He estimated maybe $60,000 to $70,000 worth of work.
More than the purchase price. What was wrong?
Oh, you name it. Siding falling off. The back porch was literally pulling away from the house. Needed a full rebuild. Garage was falling down. Needed demolition. Needed a new roof. Had vines growing into the electrical wires outside. Inside, crumbling plaster walls, probably with asbestos and old school lattice behind them. Just bad.
So Bob definitely earned his $100.
Absolutely. Richard immediately knew, nope, this is not a simple cookie cutter rehab. I figured the place was probably already on the city's condemned list, or soon would be.
So that $50,000 asking price.
Totally unrealistic. Bob thought it was worth maybe $10,000, $20,000 max, basically land value minus demolition costs. So Richard walked away. Smart move.
Crucial risk assessment, knowing when the deal is just too broken.
It's such an important lesson. Sometimes the best money you make is the money you don't lose on a bad deal. Spotting that money pit before you sink cash into it, that's good investing. Cheap advice can be priceless.
And just thinking back to that first big deal, the $110K assignment fee one.
Yeah, the older gentleman seller.
Right, the fact that he tried to back out, it just highlights that human element again. You need patience, good communication, sorting out those misunderstandings to keep things on track.
Definitely. It's not just spreadsheets and numbers. It's dealing with people, emotions, situations.
And connecting that maybe to a broader point, Richard mentioned something about attendance for his live classes, right?
Yeah, it was striking. He said less than 2% of the people enrolled actually show up for the live sessions, even when he offers incentives like Apple Watches or cash giveaways.
Less than 2%.
Yeah. And his point was, it underscores a fundamental truth, doesn't it? Success isn't just about having access to the information or enrolling in the course. It's about consistent effort, showing up, doing the work.
You can have the best playbook in the world, but if you don't run the place.
Exactly. It stays potential. Action is what turns knowledge into results.
So for you listening, the takeaway here isn't just what you know, it's how effectively you apply it.
Yeah.
Learning from every single situation, the huge wins, yes, but also the deals you have to walk away from.
Mm-hmm. That's where the real growth happens.
Okay, so we've really covered a lot today. We've journeyed through this deep dive into high-stakes real estate.
From those massive six-figure assignment fees in wholesaling
To the cleverness of zero-down flips, using hard money.
and the strategic complexity of taking over debt with trust transfers.
We've seen how creativity, being resilient, and just sharp analysis can turn properties that look like problems into really profitable opportunities.
And these aren't just, one-off tricks. They really represent a fundamental shift in how people are thinking about value, how they're extracting it in the real estate market today.
Yeah, there are powerful lessons here for anyone looking to build wealth, looking for financial independence. It shows that maybe capital isn't always king.
Right. Ingenuity, calculated risk-taking, they can be just as powerful, maybe even more so in certain situations.
So as we wrap up, here's something to think about. With interest rates doing what they're doing and the whole market shifting, consider this, is owning debt, but debt with a really favorable low interest rate, like that Indianapolis deal, is that becoming the new gold standard for long-term real estate investment? Even if it means maybe losing a bit on cash flow initially.
That's a fascinating question. Owning the financing itself becomes the prize.
Exactly. And if that's the case, how might that change with what are going to actually participate in owning property? What new kinds of opportunities might open up?
A lot to chew on there. Definitely changes the landscape.
Something for you to think about. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.